Yo, what up, world? It's your man Hazardis Soundz, and you are watching B Shine. Early on, I've always been surrounded by musical influences. Coming up, I was always my uncles. They were musicians. My grandma's crib, we had a studio in the basement, So my uncle basically was an engineer like me. And I've always had music, in my life. I was surrounded by that. They played a lot of Spanish music. So growing up listening to salsa, merengue, all those old records, it really always inspired me, you know what I'm saying? And then back when I started over in hip-hop, when I heard hip-hop back in when I was a kid, I knew that's what I wanted to do, you know what I'm saying? I was very inspired by it, and just hearing KRS-One and Run DMC, things like that, LL Cool J, really inspired me to do hip-hop, you know what I'm saying? Well, growing up in Queens, I was, it was like that whole hip-hop was really in its early stages still. But I remember when I was a kid, looking out the window and seeing cats in the middle of the street breakdancing on cardboard boxes with the boom box. And I just always thought it was so dope that, just the way, just the whole b-boying, the whole aspect of everything, riding the trains, seeing all the graffiti. That's basically what hip-hop is, to me. And, and then just when I actually heard the joints and people, rocking the mic, it's like, you know what, this is what it is right here. This is, you could feel it, And I think hip-hop today has kind of lost a lot of the elements and, what it really is about. But that's the essence of it. And I was there, and I'm glad, I feel blessed that I was able to witness that. One of my homies, in the late 90s, he actually got the Fruity Loop software, right? And he was making beats for everybody around the neighborhood. And I was like, wow, this cat's making beats on a computer. That was unheard of. Back then, all I thought was you needed an MPC or an SP1200 or something, some machinery to make beats. But he was doing it on the computer. So I thought I was wowed by it, I was like, yo, let me get a copy of that, and he gave me a copy of it. And it wasn't about till a year later till I actually got my hands on an MPC. And I had to see, and one of my other homies had an MPC also, so I knew what it was about. And I know that's what I wanted. I was like, you know what, the software and everything's cool, but I want to actually, have that hardware. And then I copped my first MPC. Actually, I think it was on eBay for mad cheap. And it was, started rocking after that. It was crazy. I was already doing beats. And I actually was rapping back then, so I wasn't waiting on nobody. I would make a beat, I'll rap on it, but then I also had a group, we used to rap. And then I started just trying to get out and start building with everybody locally, hitting all the open mics, cats that I knew that were doing their thing locally in the area, on the scene, you know what I'm saying? And I would go to these shows and just be like, yo, I got beats, hand them CDs, just, whatever I could to get my beats heard. And cats was rocking with me, so I actually started getting a lot of cats that were, we got in the studio. It really paid off to be an engineer because I already had my own setup, so I didn't have to pay nobody for studio. I would just have them come through, record it, and I started working on my first compilation. And the first actual placement, which is crazy, was I submitted beats to, it was a contest for Be Real. Be Real Gunslinger Volume 1. It was a mixtape he was putting together, and he was taking beats from outside producers. And I submitted, I was just like, fuck it, let me try it, And out of I think it was 1,000 or something producers, he picked one of my joints. And I was like, wow, I was like, Be Real to me, Cypress Hill is one of my all times, you know what I'm saying? And that was the first actual major dude that I rocked with, that I did a joint with, you know what I'm saying? So I was real happy, My mom, she comes from a real musical family, so, she kind of of course there's always those times where yo, you got to do something, because when the money wasn't coming in, because the money doesn't come in right away ever, no matter what you're trying to do, it just doesn't happen like that, So, that happens, but my parents always been real supportive. My mom let me rock out of her crib for a long time. I've had Rick Ross at my mom's house before. He walked in right by her. She didn't even know who he was, And I tell her, yo, I show her a video on TV, and she's like, yo, remember that guy? He was in here. Oh yeah, I remember him, But she doesn't, she doesn't pay attention to hip hop, but she knows that she's had some real famous people in her house, which is crazy. I've had Nori there, Gunplay, Jada Kiss. I mean, a lot of Sean Kingston, you know what I'm saying, in my mom's house, which is crazy. So they've always been supportive. You know, they seen that I was real, you know, determined to do what I wanted to do, to live on my dream. And they seen like a lot of the progress. They seen that I was actually doing stuff, you know what I'm saying? To get placements, to get things on MTV, to have, you know, things on the radio. Like one of my first placements on the radio was with Crazy Hood, you know, with Garcia and them in Miami. And we had a joint on rotation, and it was like a Latin joint. And, you know, my parents are Latin, so they would actually, oh, look, his song's on the radio, and play it for the family. So, you know, they were proud, you know. So they've always been real supportive, man. The CNN War Report too. That was always a highlight for me. You know, we were over at Benzino's studio in Miami. Nice studio. It was called The Compound, right? Raekwon, Capone Noriega. We had Kaimani Marley came by to drop something on the Oath, a joint that I produced with Raekwon and Busta Rhymes. I got to work with Nas on that album. I got to work with Mobb Deep, The Lox. It was just like, to me, that's a legendary, like, you know, to me, that's one of my favorite projects I ever worked on, you know, and just to be a part of that. I mixed the whole project, produced on it. It's amazing. It's a blessing, you know what I'm saying? Definitely one of my highlights. Producing for Meek Mill and Pusha T with Nori on Scared Money. That was a highlight. Got me a lot of... opened a lot of doors for me. You know, that record was real big. And, you know, just everything that when, you know, from the start, you know, meeting DJ Yefen, introducing me to Nori, that just kind of like set a lot of things off for me. And, you know, real gracious and feel blessed, man. Man, ever since I started this, I've always wanted to create a sound. That's why I call myself Hazardis Soundz, because I want to leave that behind like a legacy. Kind of like, you know, how you got Dr. Dre, you got Primo, you got, you know, these cats, they've actually built their own sound that when you hear it come on, you know exactly what that is. You know what I'm saying? So my sound, I want it to be, you know, just, you know, basically what I'm doing, hip hop to like the highest quality. But at the same time, it's just not my production, it's also my engineering, my mixing. I want you to turn something on and just hear the quality and be like, wow, I bet you my man Hazardis Soundz did that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the legacy I want to leave behind. Like 20 years from now, I want cats to know when they turn a record on, oh, yo, remember Haz? That dude was doing this. You know, he was doing it, right? You know what I'm saying? He did his thing. And shit, 20 years from now, I still want to be doing my thing. So I don't even want to talk past tense. I'm going to still be doing my thing. But that's basically, you know, I just want to leave a legacy behind and make sure that the sound carries on forever, man.